You're frozen, Becky.
Good morning, everyone. You are joining Proactive Health Collective of Keene. Again, it means it's Friday. TGIF.
Friday.
We love Friday.
Happy Friday.
Good morning.
I love these Friday sessions for myself as a practitioner and as somebody who loves to be in contact with other really wonderful people in the holistic health arena and the health arena. And it's a time when we get to kind of jump off each other's ideas and learn from one another, but it's also a time that then you can kind of benefit from that. So it's almost like attending a conference. Like it's kind of like a meeting in a conference where we're like, hey, this is what I'm thinking about. This is what I'm concerned about or whatever. And over the past weeks, we've had some great topics, but today we thought we would kind of like just kind of talk with each other, like if we were having breakfast together around a table, and we have an hour together, what would we be talking about together? And we have there in the, if you're attending on our webinar, our Zoom webinar, again, that's perfectly confidential. We have no idea who's tuning in, but if you want to add a question or a comment into the Q&A there, go down to the bottom, you can do that. You can join us live via Facebook, and that should be live right now on the Proactive Health Collective of Keene Facebook page. And you can join there, you can watch it later. We also have a YouTube channel where you can kind of catch up with the things we've been talking about. So I am Rebecca Montrone of Wondrous Roots. I'm a holistic health practitioner, nutritionist, herbalist. I practice in Keene, New Hampshire on Roxbury Street. I have with me Dr. Tisa Abatelli, representing both her and her husband, Matt, from Cheshire Wellness Center. And then they do spinal network analysis and all of that. And then Allison Millar, who is a licensed acupuncturist and Chinese medicine kind of whole thing. She's right here in Keene. Oh, Cheshire Wellness is right here in Keene too, on the same building I'm in.
We're neighbors. We're below you.
Neighbors. And then Allison Millar is right over here, across from the library on Winter Street. And then we have Dr. Gene Clerkin, who is Monadnock Wellness, and he's spinal network analysis. He also does a lot of things with nutritional, well, it's kinesiology. It's nutritional something. What is that? There's a name for it.
We do a lot of stuff, but thank you.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are all together in looking at health from a much broader perspective than the American Medical Association, and looking at things outside the box, but really things that have been traditional and practices revered for hundreds of years and sometimes thousands of years. And why have we divorced ourselves from those things, and why are we in such a state of health crisis, especially in a country that is so wealthy and is supposed to be so smart? Why are so many people, suffering and dying with diseases that really we should have? Well, we should have those fixed. So anyway, I introduce us that way, and
I can answer that in one. I can answer that in one word,
Go for it.
or even a symbol. Money, right? That's really, that really answers that question. Is it profit driven? How we approach things. So, quick shout out to Doctors Tisa and Matt Abatelli for taking such good care of me this week as I struggled to get myself into their office and get down on the table because I was such bad shape, tweaking my neck this week. And thanks to them, I'm on the mend, so I much appreciate that. Thank you.
Much love to you, Gene.
Yeah, I mean, when you popped up yesterday after you saw them, and I went to hug you, you were like,
I was like, yeah,
I can't.
Well, I was keeping my distance, right?
I know, yeah, it wasn't for that reason. It was just like, oh my gosh, I'm like in this, and I had no idea. And that was kind of interesting because I don't know if I picked up it just as sort of a sympathetic sort of thing, because I normally never have headache or tightness here, but that I might, but not headache, but I might have tightness there, but it doesn't, I don't really think about it. But as the day wore on, I really did. And I was
Sorry.
like, what did
I
I
got too
do?
close. I infected you with my neck.
You infected me with your neck. And, but then I went down to Dr. Tisa and Matt. I saw Matt last night. And that really, I have none of that today. So it was kind of,
Awesome.
yeah.
Your body's amazing. Give
Yeah.
your body the credit.
And give it
Well,
and give it what it needs, and it will help you.
So besides ladies' night, which we were talking about, I think one of the other things we were mentioning was
Are you feeling left out, Gene?
yeah, feeling a little bit overpowered here, imbalance of the energy. But you know, it was the fact that there is a lot of there's so much of our attention, our minds are on COVID now, right? It's in the news every day, politics, everything. And it tends to take away from the fact that there are so many other things happening that are, in many ways just as devastating, especially to the people who have them and the people who love them. Sometimes, you could say even more because of the long-term effects and the things that people have to try to live through, and the chronic diseases and things. And even, I think, Becky, you were mentioning earlier, the childhood diseases and childhood cancers, which are out of control. And, I always feel bad for people who have a chronic illness, and I was one of them. But there's no, I really feel bad for children who have to deal with that because they don't really have any choice in the matter, I guess, is a way to put that. So, why do we have, why are these other things so prevalent in our society? And, I kind of summed it up as, well, money, but what does that really mean? Anybody want to tackle that?
Yeah, I mean, we have so much chronic disease. We have the third highest cause of death in the United States is what we call iatrogenic illness. And that is illness caused by medical care.
Meaning in the top 3 causes of death in the United States?
Yeah, we have cardiovascular. I'm not sure the order, cardiovascular or cancer, but iatrogenic is third. And that is based on medical treatment. That's astounding.
Yeah.
So we are making so many people sick by the standard of care. And we do it under the guise of saying it's all about your health. It's all about our concern for your health and for your safety. And yet we're causing so many illnesses through treatment. If you actually looked at I don't know if you can actually stomach it, watch through any hour of mainstream programming. And you're going to see, 80% of the ads are going to be pharmaceutical ads, drug prescription ads. And they all list in there, they have to list all of the, the major side effects. And death is always in every single one of them. And if you took the COVID mentality today, you would go, oh my goodness, if death was possible, then death would be outlawed, right? You can't do that. We can have death happening. Well, sure. We don't care. If we're selling drugs and it might kill people, we really don't care. But if we can scare you into you might die if you get COVID, it's such a, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all.
No, and think about it, like you just mentioned, I mean, I haven't watched TV for years, just regular mainstream TV, because it's not worth watching, because you're just like, I'm just getting commercials. And it's just a quick side note, it's really funny. I did watch it, I don't know when or where, but I saw a Fruit Loops commercial and I was like, that's still a thing? Like, I remember seeing that when I was a kid, watching TV, but you're making a very valid point as far as they read off the side effects, and even if death is one of them, there's still, please talk to your doctor, take this, and it's just it's how they've advertised, and like, why are we in the state that we're in now? is because of that. It's the constant programming, because TVs are so prevalent. I mean, most people in the America have, you know, 1 to maybe 3 televisions in their house. And, you know, you're watching TV before you go to bed. You're watching TV first thing when you wake up. And, you know, we wonder why we're in a, you know, a poor state of health, because this is what we're getting bombarded with. And Becky, I made the very choice. I remember specifically, I was at my parents' house and we were watching the news, and I kind of stopped for a second. I was like, okay, so we just had like 3 or 4 reports. One was a murder, and this was in Atlanta. So there was a murder, there was a fire, there was another murder, there was a burglary, and then like it just went on and on. And then if we were lucky, by the end of the program, we got, well, somebody adopted a puppy and the puppy's really happy. You know, like you got one out of the hour of news. And it was just like, wow, I feel horrible. And I'm watching this right before I go to bed. So that's creating, you know, brainwaves. And then if kids are watching this, we're talking about like kids' health. If they're subconsciously not rationally thinking about what's being put in front of them, but they're wiring their brains that way and starting to develop these patterns, that's what's creating this. And it's just all about, you know, sickness and disease. So it's really, really hard and challenging to rewire that in a more health conscious kind of mindset, because that's not what's programmed. You know, that's not what they're trying to get us to think about, you know, on a day-to-day basis. So we have to make the conscious decision. Do I want my TV on first thing in the morning? Do I want to watch TV? I have so many people who come in at night, or I'm in the office, and they're like, at night, I just can't sleep. And I go, well, are you watching TV like right before you go to bed? And they're like, well, yeah, of course. You know, I just throw on the TV, or they're in bed and I'm sitting in bed and I'm watching TV. And of course, the blue light is stimulating the brain. It's making everything over fire, and then you shut it off immediately and your brain's still buzzing, and then you try to go to sleep. Yeah, you're not going to do it. Like, we've all experienced that. We just may not realize that that's the case. And so we have to be more mindful with what we do in the evening time, and what we allow our families to do in the evening time before we go to bed, because that's the most influential time, and first thing in the morning to program the mood of our day, if that makes sense. And and of course, everything is all for, unfortunately, the money, you know, making the money, but it's huge. It's the media is huge. I don't want to make it wrong, you know, because trust me, we enjoy watching a show at night if we have time and whatnot. I'm not saying all the time, but like just first thing when you get home and you turn on the TV and it's on until you go to bed, that could be a span of 4 to 6 hours. And what are you influencing and programming your mind and your family's mind during that time? It's a very important question.
You know, when I bring this up a lot when I do webinars and seminars, tricks are for
kids.
Right. We all, like every single person could finish that phrase, because we were sitting in front of the TV watching, and as you said, as little kids,
can't have enough of my Lucky Charms.
They're magically delicious, right? And you can go on and on with this, but really, as you were pointing out, Tisa, that you have these young minds, and they are being programmed and shaped, and it doesn't end there. You know, it starts out with, you know, obviously they want the kids to want to be pulling on their parents' arms and throwing the cereals in the cart, you know, and all that kind of stuff, and relentlessly badgering their parents to get whatever sugary things they want. But it goes on as adults, and I think that in some ways, from a society, we're sort of lazy in that we don't really consciously, you know, not everybody out there, and certainly probably not the people who are watching this, but we just sort of let it happen, and we're not conscious of it, and it does influence collectively our habits and how we address things from really the standpoint of you know, what this group is, a proactive approach versus a reactive approach. That's all programmed in. It's like, well, if you have a headache, what's the headache medicine? Excedrin, right? I mean, as far as far as I've been programmed to know, headache medicine. So the first thought, even unconscious, when you have a headache is, well, you wouldn't even really consider like going to the root cause of why I'm having the headache. Well, just get, I got some Excedrin right here, and take the headache, take the medicine, and the headache goes away, and I'm good to go. So it is a dangerous thing in that I think a lot of times we don't even realize that we're doing it. We're almost like sleepwalking through life, having the TV on all the time, being programmed with many ideas, whatever the media wants us to be fed. And it is translating, and I think that is a huge part of why, we have so much chronic illness in our society, because, most of chronic illness, there are things, people are born with stuff and there's nothing they can do about it. It doesn't mean it didn't come from the environment, from mom or something like that. But a vast majority of what people are experiencing is based on the choices they make in the environment that they're living in, both from a nutritional standpoint, a toxicity standpoint, and an informational, psychological standpoint as well.
And just to piggyback on that, I'm sorry, Allison, because I know you have, but just to piggyback on that, these environmental things, whether it be nutrition or whatever, will overcome many, probably most genetic defects. I'm not talking about severe genetic defects, metabolic syndrome, or things that are clearly something that are really off the map. But for most of the genetic defects that we all inherit, if we had proper nutrition and lack of toxicity, we wouldn't need these extra nutrients, these, like I do with people with those kinds of things. We would not need that. But we are combating an environment that is so toxic, a food supply that is so toxic, that now we have to really kind of garner in and use nutrients in a therapeutic dosing kind of situation to deal with things that, if we were living in a clean environment, would never be needed.
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce that we are getting the negativity aspect from the media, and we're seeing it, it's in our culture, and we're kind of raised with that. And think about Western medicine, it's the same viewpoint. Western medicine treats things in a very negative sort of way. It's always an antidepressant, an anti-inflammatory agent. We want to go in and we want to do surgery. If there's a problem, we want to take it out of the body. We're always looking for what's wrong and diagnosing, putting a label on something, figuring out what is wrong with the body, and then getting rid of it. And that's why it's usually a symptomatic approach to medicine and getting rid of the symptoms. We're not adding things into the diet. We're not adding in positive ideas or positive suggestions for lifestyles. Hopefully this is changing. But as an overall sort of look at where we are right now with Western medicine, that's very much what we're getting. Mm-hmm. That's why we do what we do here. Give you a different sort of frame of coming at your health in a more proactive way.
Yeah, right. Allison, you bring up a really good point. I had a practice member say the other day, she was talking about, so when we identify something like, man, people walk in, they're like, I don't know what's wrong with me, just everything hurts, whatever the situation is. And it's like, if only I knew what it was, I would feel better. I'm like, why would you have to name it in order to feel better about it? And I mean, unless it's like really a challenge that's been going on for a long time, and just like the mindset, if I just knew what I was experiencing, I just might feel better. Like, naming it creates an ownership of it. And so this practice member said something about her eczema, and she goes, yeah, my eczema. And she stopped and she goes, sorry, the eczema that I have, like, she totally shifted it. She's changed the way she's like, I have eczema, except for, or I am eczema. And she changed that to, I have. It's not me. It's not an identity of me. It's just something I have right now. So she just, I didn't even say anything. It was just really brilliant that she caught that and changed how she identified with it. So if we did that, because then we use it as a crutch. Well, I can't do this because I have this, and I can't do this because I have this. And so we always ask, you know, in our intake, like, what is it that you're not able to do right now because of your health? Well, I can't exercise. I don't have any energy, or, you know, I wish I could go hike Mount Monadnock. I wish I could play with my kids. Okay, those are very important things. What would you want more of? Well, I definitely would want more health, like more vibrancy, more energy. I would want to be able to, like, we turn to what's not working, what would you do, and then what would you want more of, and then how important is it to you to get more of that? Because if we, like you were saying, Allison, if you focus on what you don't want, you're going to get more of what you don't want. You know, if you're stepping on that weight scale every day and you're focused on the fact that you're not losing weight, you're going to continue to not lose weight because that's all you're focusing on. But if you decided to, maybe I should just go for a walk, you know, for 30 minutes, you know, for 3 times a week, just make it reasonable. And you might actually change your mindset and stop looking at the weight scale and actually be doing something different. So the next time that you do, it might actually be different. So focusing on what you do want, like I hear it a lot. I want to lose weight. Cool. The shift to that would be like, I want to be healthy and fit. You know, like there's a difference and a different energy behind that, you know? So it's all in how we look at it. And again, back to the programming of what we've been taught to think.
But I do think, I have to say, and I have to, that's a great example, Tisa. I had a woman and she just popped in the other day, and I was between, you know, clients or whatever. And it was like, she wants help about weight loss. Well, somebody comes in and just pops into the shop. Weight loss, I don't go, oh yeah, we have this will burn your metabolism up. This will be, I mean, that's, so I was like, no, come in. And, you know, I talked to her for a little bit, and she really clearly looked to me like a polycystic ovarian syndrome person. So that's important for me to know. So I do know how knowing what is behind your problems is very validating. So if you look at somebody, she's like, and she had a mask on. And I said, you know, you don't have to wear the mask for me. And she goes, no, I just have this, you know, acne, you know. And I'm like, do you have, you know, excess body hair? Do you have, you know, hair loss? Things that would tune you into a polycystic ovarian syndrome kind of thing. Because then, you know, when we talk about weight, we have to do that very specifically. If we just say, these herbs help, you know, rev your metabolism, and I go, oh yes, we have just the magic potion for weight loss. Or, you know, we've got this patch that's supposed to do with leptin and stuff like that. So somebody just comes in and says weight loss. Oh my goodness, that's like sleep. It's not like, oh yes, we have the perfect potion. So, but I do know that when you can look at a person's symptom complex and kind of boil it down into an explanation, it is very freeing. It's not like, oh goodness, I'm just, you know, my friends just think, oh, you know, I'm lazy, so I don't lose weight, or, you know, other things, or why this or why that. And there's a lot of shame when somebody gets like, whoa, there's something really going on here. And I think one of the big things that I notice is connective tissue disorder, and that would float into everything we do. That's very common, but very, very poorly diagnosed in a mainstream media setting, mainstream medical setting, because you see so many different things. So if you have psychiatric disorder and you have gut issues, or you have migraine or whatever, a lot of things can be tied into that. So even if you don't have a perfect answer, if you can draw enough dots to say to somebody, it looks like this could be your problem, it is very liberating, I think.
I think, you know, I know, Allison, you want to jump in here, but just before I forget, because I think it's how you frame it. So it's one thing to get the diagnosis, but if you take that diagnosis and then you treat it as like, well, I have this and there's nothing I can do about it, and it becomes unempowering, that's totally different than, okay, I have this information now. How can I use this information that I have to make changes? And another interesting point about what Tisa was talking about in regards to, well, one of our mentors, Dean, would always say, we think that by doing things, healthy things, are going to get us well. But what he says is that people that are well make healthy decisions. In other words, there has to be a change in your internal focus in order to be well, and then automatically you'll walk those 3 days, not because you're trying to lose weight, but just because you want to do something that's a wellness thing. You'll eat well because it feels right, it makes sense, not because you just want to eat right to make your eczema go away. There's a difference there in how you're looking at it and how you're approaching your life. If you want to eat well just to make your skin look a little better, and then you go back to eating the way you were, which is a lot of people do that through whatever, and weight is a perfect example of that. Well, let me do Weight Watchers and then that's why 98% of those people gain all the weight back, because they're trying to get away from something, and that behavior didn't come truly from a wellness perspective, which, like, I want to eat healthy and well to support my body in the best way that I can, because it's the right thing to do, and I want to be vibrant and treat my body as a temple. It's different than, I want to try to lose weight, so I'm going to eat this way until I can lose weight.
Tony Robbins talks a lot about this and how you can sort of make change by becoming this person and setting in. A lot of people talk about this in inspirational TED Talks and whatnot that you'll find. But what I wanted to say about what Dr. Tisa was saying, like, if you focus on what you don't want, you're going to get that. What Tony Robbins brings up is that it's actually there's a part of the brain. I hope I don't get this wrong, but I think it's the reticular activating system. But its job is to protect you. And so it actually will just block out any information unless it is what is in the forefront of your mind. So the example that he uses is, if you want to buy, a car, like a specific car. Say I want a Toyota Camry, or no, that example won't work. Say I want like a WRX, which are not too common. So, I never really realized that people had Subaru WRXs and they were driving around town until you want one. And then you start to see them everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's because your brain is literally, now that's in the forefront of your brain. And so it's not like turned off anymore, and your brain starts to search that out. And it's like a spiral staircase in the positive direction, because now if you make a healthy choice and you start to see the benefit of that, because your goal is something in a positive frame, and you're like, wow, I do have a little bit more energy today, then you'll see, oh, I just walked down the block and I'm not out of breath. And you'll realize that, and that'll be more encouragement for you to keep going in that direction. So yeah, I think moral of the story, if you're framing things in a more positive light in terms of what you do want, and you're not focusing your attention on something that you have and identifying a problem and how are you going to fix this problem, no matter if it's like something that you think is positive that you're going to like fix it, that's a positive thing, but you're still focusing on the fact that you have this problem. Who will you be without this problem? Focus on that. If I didn't have this, this is what I would be, and who would that person be? And maybe that person would take these supplements that would be good for it, because they would know about that. And it's just coming at it from a totally different mindset.
That's the huge point. You can have all of this great intuition, but if you don't know what to do, and that's the other thing, you have to have increased knowledge. And that's, what we do is we explain to people. It can be all well and good. I know I need to do this, and I need to do that. I feel that instinctually, but knowledge is power. So when you understand why you need to do these things. That is so much more, and I mean, that's a big part of it, because you might get that feeling that you need to take a walk or whatever, but a walk could be like nothing in the whole scheme of really what's going on in your body. And again, the fact that we are not in the Garden of Eden, we are in a very toxic environment. We're dealing with enemies that are super strong, and they've come to us, just like Dr. Jean was saying, because of dollars, whether it's Big Pharma or Madison Avenue, whether it was you have the perfect groomed lawn and you have Roundup out there and you're poisoning yourself and your kids and your dogs and anybody on your lawn. You have GMO foods, how convenient. I remember my grandmother in the Deep South, you know, she raised 6 children with no electricity, air conditioning, and you're talking super hot things. So finally, you know, when she gets to the point where Sara Lee comes out with, you know, frozen food and then all this microwavable stuff, it was great. You know, she just sat there and watched her soap operas and ate this crap because this was so convenient. And who was making out on that? This was not good for health, but people were making huge money on this. The things that are poisoning us right now are basically all based on corporate gain and greed, and they don't really care how it's affecting your health. You like it, it tastes good, just have it. Excitotoxin foods, you know, with the glutamate poisoning and all of that kind of stuff, or whatever it is, but we are in a very toxic planet. Why was it in the early ages of history, people lived like Methuselah lived 960 something years? If we were planted down right now in an environment that was not so loaded with free radical damage and oxidative stress, we would all live a lot longer. So we are under a toxic load that really bears if we're going to fight it, we're going to have to be very defensive and very aggressive. And that's some of the things that we do that would be useful in any age, but I think especially in this age where people don't even realize they're just comfortable. They don't realize how uncomfortable they really are.
You know, I was just going to say, I used to hear the story a lot more. I don't hear it as much, but people would say, well, my grandmother never had to do whatever, and she lived to be this age, and, you know, and I think what we're seeing is those stories are fewer and far between as they have aged out, and now the grandmothers of today, because our elderly are, you know, pretty much almost all chronically ill. We are in a totally different world. And I think in the past, there's have been parts of, environmental things that have gone on in history. You know, obviously people working in the coal mines, they didn't fare too well, right? And so we have had a change, and it requires approaching it from more than just doing the normal. We do have to take extra steps, and even just eating well and exercising, you know, frankly, isn't quite enough anymore. And you do need some help, usually from a practitioner who can help you get to the bottom of some of these things, trying to find out and realize what is overwhelming your body from a chemical, from an emotional standpoint, from a stress standpoint, from an energetic standpoint.
Yeah, I think one of the best benefits we have up here, especially in Keene, is the abundance of the local farmers that we have. This is not something that I've really ever experienced in my lifetime. I would go to the farmers market down in Atlanta, but it was like few and far between. But I never really thought, like, farming was not really existent to me when I was growing up, you know, and I lived in Missouri, and I've lived in Atlanta, I've lived in Colorado, and it just was never really a thing. And then I come up here, and, you know, people like are so excited because they get to start their summer job working on the farm to help grow food, and working at the farmers market, getting to know the farmers themselves. Like, what a treat that we have to connect with these farmers, eat their awesome food on a regular basis, especially during the summertime and the fall time, and then whatever treats we get to have during the winter, you know, if they're still growing. And, you know, not to say that you don't go to Hannaford's or you don't go to the co-op to get food, but what a treat to really get good, nutritious foods. I was listening to something the other day, I can't exactly remember what, but, you know, 90%, or maybe not even that high, but, you know, somewhere between like 70 to 80% of the corn grown in the United States does not go to the people. It goes to the agricultural industry to feed, for biofuels and to feed cattle, to feed everything else. Like the corn, the GMO corn that we grow, that we talk about, these big, huge farms, they don't provide food for people who need food. They're providing food for cattle more, you know, so we're feeding our livestock better than we are our people. And the food that we actually get, you know, in grocery stores are coming from a farm that has less than 2 acres, you know, and the farmers that we have in the Keene Farmers Market, I mean, I don't know how many acres they have, but we're getting most of our food from those sources. And to support a family that's growing, you know, their livelihood is growing food for others, like, is even better. Like, you feel more connected to it. You feel good about what you eat, and it's knowing that it's a little bit cleaner and it's something that we can feel good about. But just going and, you know, like Becky, you're saying the GMOs and stuff, like, yeah, it's convenient, because I think, honestly, I heard something that Kentucky Fried Chicken, I don't know if that's a thing up here, but Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh, it's a thing everywhere.
It is a thing up here, okay. Was the start of the Mother's Night Off, of grab a bucket of chicken and grab the mashed potatoes and grab the, you know, carrots and green beans and everything. They're the ones who started that. And then obviously you had all the instant microwavable foods, because the microwave was invented. And I mean, how awesome at that point in time, like, for something, you know, much easier to grab some, and then, but to do it every night, or to, you know, grab fast food every now and again, I'm not going to say that's wrong. I mean, it's probably not great, but, you know, come on, let's give ourselves some credit. We're working late and we want something quick. We don't
You'll overcome it. You'll overcome us, you know, an occasional insult. If you're, it's not what you do once in a while, it's what you do all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, treat yourself. If you want that apple spice donut, get it, you know, every now and again. So it's fall time, so I'm a sucker for pumpkins and apples right now. So, you know, it's just like, supporting local is going to be so much more beneficial, not only in our health, but in the state of the environment in general.
Yeah. You know, one of my, if I had to give a top, you know, if you could only give one piece of advice, you know, you only had one chance, like one piece of advice, what would it be? Know your farmer.
Know your farmer, yeah.
Know your farmer.
What?
Know your farmer.
Your former.
Farmer.
Oh, farmer. Okay.
Know your farmer.
My boyfriend is a hunter, and I feel very lucky. I've never had that before, but he'll provide this like fresh venison and turkey, and I honestly, I feel like it recharges my batteries. The moment that I eat that meat, I just feel like, so it's almost like, he actually says, I'm very fair skinned. He's like, the blood is like literally coming to your face again. There's something just so amazing about having things that are in your local area, that have been eating the food in your ecosystem, unadulterated, no hormones, no chemicals, no antibiotics. And it's just pure energy. And it's how we've evolved as humans too. So getting as close as you can to your community and the things that you eat is so important.
I think that really bounces off the Weston A. Price whole thing, the traditional diets, because, you know, in the world of health, like, people will say cancer, you shouldn't eat meat. You know, it needs to be vegetarian. And he said, no. It's that our meat supply is adulterated. So if you're eating meat and it has hormones and antibiotics and it's got poison there, it wasn't the meat's problem. The meat is not the problem. So like what you're talking about, Allison, with this, you know, wild caught meat and stuff that is pure, it says so much. It's frustrating because there are so many things going on that the average person has no idea when they go to the grocery store and the things they're getting and the things and the microwave. Oh, Dr. Tisa, talking about that. Most people don't know how deadly the microwave oven is. And I didn't for many years, but I finally learned about it. So microwave technology was invented to denature, to deconstruct the genetic integrity of things so that they could be messed around with. And that's what happens to your food. So this is a crime. You go out and you pay really good money for organic food or whatever. And you know, you're going to do this. You just put it in the microwave. You don't think anything about it. So microwave technology, it moves the molecules this way and that way, and it creates a lot of stress in the system. Just even steamed vegetables have been shown to raise cholesterol levels because of the stress. And so cereals in milk have been shown to increase cancer. And you add plastics into that and you have a huge, what we call organochlorine or synthetic estrogens. So a lot of cancer risk with this. This is all known, but most people don't know it. They just think of their microwave as a, you know, another way to cook. And it's microwave technology is horrible. The first thing, just get rid of your microwave. Somebody says to me, well, how do I heat up my leftovers? I'm like, you know, go out in the yard, go out in the yard, find 2 sticks, start rubbing them together. You know, hello, it's not that hard, but we're not informed about this. And microwave ovens, you know, sell a lot, and people are, we are killing ourselves through ignorance. And I don't say that in an insulting way. We are educated that way through everything that comes our way. And we're killing ourselves. And COVID is a joke compared to what we have been doing to ourselves for decades and what we are still doing while we're looking at an enemy that has very little impact in our lives at all. And that's all we're focusing on. And it's tragic, it's sad.
Just real quick on the, you know, for those in the audience who might not know Weston A. Price, but Weston A. Price was a dentist who went around the world and found pristine cultures that hadn't been westernized yet, and noticed, you know, their diets, you know, and they were different. So the Eskimos were different than the people in South, you know, Pacific and stuff like that. But he did notice some similarities. One of them was good healthy fats, you know, which have been demonized in our society, a lot of which come from, you know, meat sources or animal sources. So I think, you know, I would encourage anyone to really check out the Weston Price Foundation, westonprice.org, and tons of research articles on there are pretty much on anything you want to know about. And, you know, very good resource, recipes, all kinds of good stuff in there. So check them out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think
a
problem that we see, which is, I think, maybe like the source of it, it's that the culture that we live in, I think we all struggle for time. You know, it's tough to make a living, and you go to work and you've got to do all this stuff. And then if you have kids or you have pets or what, you just have all these responsibilities, and we keep adding on, and then you're buying more things because you have more money, and then you need time to take care of those things. And we've kind of got ourselves in a little bit of a mess here in the Western world. So we've become reliant on these things like microwaves and things that make things faster and easier. And it's easier. It's almost like, it's like a cycle that feeds on itself. When you feel like you don't have enough time, you start adding more on your plate. I don't know why we do it, but we all do it. We get more overwhelmed, and then it's like you just kind of like keep going, and you feel like you have less and less time. And so, at least for me, and what I tell a lot of my patients, you know, it's the really small moments that make a huge difference.
Oh, huge.
So if you are going to the bank and you just have to wait in line for a minute, like really just experience that time and just like breathe and just like try to just be present and be with your breath and really just like experience that. Don't be thinking about all the other things that you need to do. And while I've said this before in the webinar, but when you're eating, if you can just not do anything else while you eat and just just nourish yourself with that food. And even if you're busy actually doing your job, check in from time to time with your posture, take a deep breath, and just these really little things that you can do. Even the busiest person can do them. And then that will start to shift your mindset so you feel like you have more time. And then suddenly, you know, your life starts to change, and that you realize that, oh, this thing that I feel like I really have to do, maybe I don't actually really have to do that, or I actually don't have to do it today or right now. And you can instead remember the importance of cooking something healthy and warming your food up on the stove top versus the microwave, or making that decision that's going to be more helpful for your body.
And a lot of times that means saying no to things, to our culture, and just setting those boundaries, you know. And the things you're talking about, like this morning, like I skipped my shower because I wanted to play my guitar a little longer, and I had been doing work earlier, but it's like I took a shower yesterday. I'm okay. So I think, you know, if I don't do those things that nourish myself, these are the rituals that we have, the things that we just take time to give gratitude to. It's like gratitude for. And if we don't put these things into place in our daily lives, we will burn out. You cannot give out stuff you don't have fuel for. So, you know, I just tell people, whatever it is that you need to do on a daily basis to nourish your soul, to nourish your mind, to, you know, really just stop and stand back and be in awe of, you know, I'm in awe of God and all of the blessings in my life. I don't want to do that. I want to be on a treadmill, and I can't help people if I don't come from that sort of place. No matter what I know about science or whatever, if I don't come from that sort of place in myself, I can't help anyone.
And it's more of a feeling of being than like it's like, okay, what do I have to do to nourish myself? And then you think about, okay, I really like to read. So then you don't want to add it to your to-do list. Like, okay, I got my reading done for the day.
Right, exactly.
That's where we get into trouble. Yeah, you've got to really, when you're doing that, feel that it's nourishing you. Feel that that's your break. And I think it also that's a great example of flexibility. You know, the fact that you didn't shower today, it's like,
okay,
you just a little bit. It's the flexibility. And Dr. Tisa, you know, I'm sure that reflects to the flexibility in your muscles and your spine. And in Chinese medicine, that lets your energy flow more. So, you know, it's such a healthy decision to make, to be more flexible in that regard. So get out of your head and get into your body.
Yeah. You make a really good point about the time, because it's funny, because isn't this pandemic one of the best global pauses we've had in a long time? And people had time to slow down, to nourish themselves. And everybody's different. We don't know exactly what people did, but I remember when I was in chiropractic school, to get this particular care that we do, the network spinal analysis or network spinal care, I had to travel an hour to Asheville from Spartanburg, South Carolina to Asheville, just an hour one way, just to get to the office. And I'll tell you, my first mindset, I was like, I have homework to do, I have to study, I have a test, you know, like I had all these reasons time-wise not to go. And then finally I started going, and I realized I was having more flexibility. We started carpooling. So if you needed to study, you're like, can you please drive so I can study? You know, we started doing that, and then we would stop. I mean, it ended up being like a 4-hour trip every time. And that's a big chunk of time for school, especially when you're trying to take 9 classes at once. And so we would go, we'd be there for an hour, or take it an hour to get there, be there for however long. We'd go to dinner. We'd always go to a really nice grocery store, kind of like the Co-op. It was called Earth Fare, and we'd get a snack and, you know, something good we felt was better than like going out to dinner or grabbing, you know, something fast food or whatever. And then we'd drive back. So it ended up being somehow 4 hours every time. And we started going 2 times a week. And trust me, time and money when you're a college student, I understand is not, I mean, that's for anybody really, but eventually we got to the point where the flexibility within ourselves started to happen. So you're making a very valid point, Allison, that I didn't have time not to go. And I realized I had to go because I knew that I was serving myself. The self-care that I was taking, regardless of time and money, really started to change my system for the better. And I was able to handle doing crazy tests. I didn't get as stressed out as much. I was more at ease going into stuff, you know. Chiropractic school is no joke. I know doctorate school is a joke. School is not a joke, but you know, it was really time consuming, but we finally realized I didn't have time not to do it. And the self-care was super, super important to us. So yes, when you become more connected to yourself and to the earth, you become more grounded, you become more flexible. You know, we live in a beautiful time right now with the fall foliage, like just going outside and sitting outside for 5 minutes and looking at the trees, breathing the air, you know, going to a park or whatever it might be. That self-care, you know, if you're eating something, really honor the food that you're eating, be grateful for it and appreciate what you're taking in to get the most out of it. And things will shift. They do. You see it in people all the time. I think, Becky, you've mentioned a couple times, like, oh, I just didn't want to go down there for my session. And then afterwards you're like, oh, I feel great. You know, I felt that way. I totally get it. You know, we all have those.
Well, you're just trying to cram it into your day. And all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, I'm just so glad I did that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then suddenly you have time for everything. You're like, oh, wow. I got time to make dinner. I've got time to read my book.
I had time to come back up and return phone calls, but at the same time, it was better for me. It was just better for me. And
it just gets you to slow down and connect. That's really
not even that. I think there's something more going on with that. But yeah, I don't care if it took 3 seconds or 3 hours. It definitely works. I don't know exactly how it works, but I can just tell you it does. So it's not just that. I mean, I could have gone down to the waiting area down there and just sat there for 20 minutes and no, it wouldn't be the same. So yeah, it's not just that. But Allison, like just dovetailing on all of this, you kind of brought up, which I think is really important, is that if you have habits that help you relax, whether it's playing music, doing meditation, or like I love my Bible reading or stuff like that, don't make that an extra obligation. Those things are to serve you. So don't feel guilty now if you don't have time for this today because that was better or that worked in better. Those things are there to serve you. You are not there to serve them. And if they become just another regimen that you have to adhere to, that's missing the whole point. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it sort of kind of speaks to what I was talking about before, is where if it becomes that outside in, like, well, I have to go down and get adjusted, and I have to do this, and I have to, get it in. It's different than from the inside out, where it's just like inwardly, that you need to serve yourself and nourish yourself, and if you do that from that space, it always yields good results for you. And, as you said, once you do it, especially if it is something nourishing, whether that be a walk in the woods or a visit to Dr. Zavatelli, when you come out of it the other end, it's almost like I can't even believe that I was considering not doing this,
Right, yeah.
Sometimes I'll get that way, like I'll play hockey and, it's like, I don't know, do I really feel like going tonight? It's like, I'd rather just not, and then when I get out there and I'm playing and, like I'm free really of all other things. And then afterwards, the feeling is like, oh my God, I can't even imagine, like, this is ridiculous. Like, of course I had to do this.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that's what we were talking about earlier with Allison and Dr. Tisa was that whole thing about just following your instinct. Because instinct is a big part of it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know any literature that says I need to take a walk this morning, but I just know I need to take a walk. or whatever, and kind of following those things, trying to listening to ourselves better about stuff like that.
It's an innate knowing. Your body knows what to do. It always knows what to do. And we have to trust that, because you get surgery and the doctor is banking on you to heal. They're not going to heal you, and people are like, man, I feel so much better, after whatever, or after an adjustment and a recession. And it's like, you're the one doing the healing, not me. I'm just facilitating a point to tell you where to connect. But ultimately, we are the doctor. We are the healers of our own world and our body specifically. So if we heal from the inside and we start to change into something better, we're going to make better decisions. Just like Dr. Jean was talking about, our decision making is going to be different, in what we put in our body and how we view things. And then we might not watch, the TV, and we might, instead of watching that show, we read a book, or we knit something or crochet or whatever, fuels us. It's always going to change. The healthier we get on the inside, the healthier we're going to feel, and life is going to change on the outside. And I always remember that I heard this the other day. This quote came across our front desk, and someone was like, "Are you living or just existing?"
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, that's a really good, kind of perspective check-in. Are we living or just existing? And I don't know about you guys, but I want to live. So, and get life to the fullest of what we can have and be and do. So.
Yeah. I always love when you and Dr. Matt talk about, a higher vibration and a lower vibration, and how it's not easy to go into the higher vibration. It takes effort, right? But that's living. The lower vibration is just being passive and, thinking, just kind of being in that, like, I have so much to do, and oh, here's another thing that I need to do, and I know that taking this vitamin is going to be good for me, so I'll just take that. And I know making a walk usually helps me out, so I'll go for a walk, and you're thinking about all the other stuff that you have to do while you're walking. It's a easier way to be, and to lift that up. It takes a bit of effort, but I love how you guys point that out. I've never thought about it in that way, and I apply that like every day in my life too. I'm like, no, you gotta get up there, like flip the switch. Yeah.
Change your energy state, you'll change your life. You change your posture, and it changes your energy state, and it changes your life. Like, it's all connected.
Well, from this posture, I would like to say, I would challenge people. Most people are very artistic, and you might think, oh, I have no musical talent, or I can't draw, I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, maybe you've never had opportunity. So I would say, don't say, well, if I wanted to play piano, I should have been doing it since I was in second grade. Or if I wanted to play guitar, I should have been doing this. No. Do not write yourself off. Most people have talents they have no idea are there. And then you just get yourself just some paper and a charcoal pen or something, and just start to do something. Just take some time and find out really who you are and these great, wonderful gifts you have, because a lot of times life just crowds that stuff out, and then you don't respect yourself, and you think other people are better, and you don't know that these gifts are within you. And I think that's a huge part of health, is just blossoming into the creation you are. And all of these things, maybe you've never had opportunity or thought were worthy of you to pay attention to. I just encourage that.
Yeah. Dr. Matt has a really good quote in our back office room, and it always, if like things start to get challenging or we're not sure or whatever it may be, but the quote is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Mm-hmm. And my team looked at that the other day, and they're like, how? Like, what? They're like, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Like, if you couldn't fail at playing the piano, or if you couldn't fail at drawing that picture that you want to draw, would you do it? Of course.
The sky's the limit. The sky is now the limit. Yeah.
Cool. So it seems like, the theme here is like, we have a society that in some ways is very sick, right? There's a lot of that going on. but there's a lot of wellness too that can be tapped into. And I just think it's where you place your focus is what is the one thing that we have control over. And we do have to consciously make an effort to be willing to step back and look at our habits and how we are approaching our life and say, is this working? Is this not working? What could I do differently? And it doesn't have to be a huge, big thing, but there does have to be some effort and some ownership, I think, of the fact that we do have control over our destiny. And sometimes you need some help and some facilitation. That's certainly what we're all here to help people with. But you can do it, and you can turn things around, or maybe not even turn things around, but bring your life to the next level with each passing day.
Yeah. Well said.
Amen.
Yeah. Happy weekend, everybody. Yeah.
Thank you all for listening.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Happy October.
Yeah, happy October.
It's already October.
Pumpkin season. We have to go out and get some pumpkins for our front steps. Yeah. We need pumpkins.
The kids said it's pumpkin season.
It is
Right,
pumpkin. There's no replacement for the pumpkin.
No.